Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Today we are in Mumbai and we will check out India's largest budget carrier, IndiGo, on a flight up to the capital, Delhi. Measured by fleet size, aircraft capacity, number of daily flights, and route served, IndiGo has not only outpaced India's flagship carrier, Air India, but also ranks among the world's top 10 biggest airlines. So I'm especially excited to see what flying with them is like. And actually, I have been flying internationally with IndiGo twice, but today is the first time trying their domestic service, which didn't go as smoothly as planned. So let's jump right in. Good morning from Mumbai, better side from the Amur Hotel East, I think it's called, for a whopping 2,600 rupees per night. I'm not non-stop then or just scale, so we ain't staying at the Ritz-Carlton, but we've got one towel here, no toilet paper, but I've paid extra for a room with a window. However, it's not facing in the direction that I've wished for. And also I do look like a llama, like I have to cut my hair and my beard, but I've heard that the best barbers in India are in Delhi, so yeah, let's fly up to Delhi. I'd say this hotel is probably more suited for bald and bankrupt than non-stop then. The great thing about Amur Hotel East is that it's right next to the metro station. The bad thing, however, the airport isn't.
I think maybe not allowed to go. Or not?
Yeah, maybe. By foot is a whopping 25 minutes through the busy roads of Mumbai to get from the metro station that's closest to the airport to the actual airport. Naturally, we took a more leisurely approach, opting to stroll around the hotel first, soaking in the vibrant morning hum of the neighborhood before summoning an Uber. Having recently recovered from a rather spirited encounter with food poisoning, I thought, why not give my stomach some more work to do? Nice, okay, I'm franken. Some of that infamous Indian street food surely couldn't hurt. The delicacies were splendid, but apart from almost giving me diabetes, had no impact on my physical well-being whatsoever. I have tried to find out what the name of those sugar-coated mini donuts is since the day I ate them, because this stuff is addictive.
Yes.
Eventually we paid 500 instead of 100 rupees for the snack, lacking any smaller notes. But bless his soul, the vendor was rather adamant in his refusal until finally taking the money.
756.
The pin is 9949. 9949. Mumbai's Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International may be one of the busiest airports in the world, but astonishingly, no metro or train connects it to the city. That, however, is about to change with the Aqua Line. What sounds like a 2000s pop group is actually Mumbai's very first underground metro, and it's finally set to link Terminal 2 to the rest of the bustling city of 21 million. Originally, the metro line was set to open in 2016, but yeah, that didn't really work out, I guess. I'm just so conditioned to rely on public transport, I somehow always forget that Uber exists. Back in my home country, you see, the starting fare alone costs twice as much as the entire ride to the airport here. And as absurd as it sounds, I'm actually saving money while traveling, spending less than I would at home. When it comes to obeying traffic rules, I feel like people here still have some room for improvement, to say the least. However, as far as honking the horn is concerned, they would definitely win gold if it was an Olympic discipline. So welcome to Mumbai Airport. It's fucking massive. Welcome to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport. And trust me, it took me like 23 attempts and 2 mental breakdowns to pronounce that without completely butchering it. Here we are at Terminal 2. Well, technically outside of Terminal 2. We'd love to admire the sleek interiors, but the security guy at the entrance has decided otherwise, as he is protecting the airport from suspicious foreigners who hold booking confirmations that are longer than 1 page. Good that the security staff don't speak German, so the ticket was not issued how they wanted it. They have securities at the entrance, and the name of the booking and the initiary has to be on the same page. But from go to gate, It was not on the same page. Fortunately, the confirmation was in German, so I could improve the translation a bit so they would let us in. IndiGo offers self-check-in kiosks, but I suppose this machine hates us, because instead of performing the one task that justifies its entire existence, it instructs us to join the massive queue in order to get our boarding passes. After quite a lengthy wait in line, we finally reach a check-in desk. An experience that turned out to be, let's say, a bit unconventional. It wasn't that the agent lacked friendliness, she was perfectly pleasant, yet the process had a touch of organized chaos with a sprinkle of dementia. For example, she asked for my passport like 3 times after I already handed it over. She also really wanted to make sure she's checking us into the right plane and therefore double and triple checked our destination as well as our baggage situation. So I guess it's no mystery why the queue moves painfully slow. If it takes this long for a simple request like getting a boarding pass, the pace was, to put it mildly, glacial. But in fairness, this is all part of the charm when flying a budget airline with fares that make it difficult to complain too much. Thank you so much. So the funny thing is, the check-in staff did not know that the bags will not go through directly if you transit in Mumbai if you're arriving from abroad. And luckily they told us yesterday in the airplane, because we didn't know, because normally when you transit the bags will go through directly. We would not have picked up our bag, and then when we arrive in Delhi they would not have been there. But the thing is, due to customs regulations, you cannot, you have to pick up your bags. All in all, I hold a quite positive impression of IndiGo so far. My last flight with them was a pleasant surprise, and in my previous video I gave the airline glowing praise. But the check-in process, that's where things get complicated, and today is no exception. Just as we're about to head to security, my ticket cannot be scanned, and I'm turned away while my wife Pachari was let in. The reason? No stamp on my ticket. Interestingly enough, neither Pachari nor any of the other passengers had a stamp on their ticket, and no one mentioned a word about having to have a stamp, but somehow I needed one. But I guess that's how things work around here, so eventually I'm directed back to the IndiGo check-in counter. Obviously, they have no idea about any stamp either and send me off to the IndiGo information desk. From there, I'm redirected to another IndiGo counter, where I'm advised, of course, to return to the IndiGo check-in counter. At that point, it basically feels like dealing with public authorities, and I start to understand why some of the IndiGo ground crew have "No tips please" printed on their shirts. I couldn't scan my ticket somehow. Pachari's ticket worked, but mine not. And now they send me back to the counter, where I have to get the stamp on my ticket in order to be let in, because they cannot manually let me in if I don't have the stamp on my ticket. We don't have much time anymore now. The line at security control is massive, so I have been sent from one counter to another one, and then to another one again, and now back to the first one I've been. Everybody don't know about this fucking stamp, and the gate they won't let me in because I don't have a stamp on my ticket. But like everybody don't have a stamp on their tickets. Actually, did not have a stamp as well. I don't know why I need a stamp. Like now I have been sent from the domestic check-in to the international, and then from the international to the help desk, and then the help desk sent me to the domestic check-in again. Like they really don't give a fuck, like they just don't care at all. They just stand there, ignore you, just point with their finger to another desk. Sometimes you have to really push here to get something done. Like otherwise they don't care at all. I swear I was on the verge of losing my mind when 2 IndiGo staff members told me to wait, only to disappear completely and never returned. Eventually I gave up and skipped a queue at yet another counter. There the agent tried to brush me off, but finally he talked to me and stamped on that thing. So when I got the stamp, they didn't even scan my tickets or anything, and the stamp literally just says IndiGo International Aviation Limited, Mumbai, BOM. Yeah, no idea what this was used for. Yeah, I mean, everybody does it, I don't know why I did it. A tad irritated and slightly pressed for time, we make our way to gate 52. It's worth mentioning again just how splendid this airport is, though sadly we have little time left to probably explore it or indulge in a spot of plane watching. However, with our flight running a leisurely 30 minutes behind schedule, we managed to reach the gate comfortably. And finally, the more charming part of our journey can begin. Welcome on board this German bad boy. Being just 2 years old since it was born at the Airbus final assembly line in Hamburg, this A320neo is one of the fresh kids on the block. We settle into our seats 32E and 32F, where the legroom is, let's say, on the cozy side, though you can pay a bit extra for more space. Interestingly, on all IndiGo planes, or at least at the A320 family, the seat cushions are separated, something you don't often find in economy class on most other airlines. At least at the ones I reviewed on this channel. Now, some folks might not love it, especially if your butt is bigger than the head of a baby elephant, but personally I quite like it. It gives a bit of distance and a hint of privacy. And well, even though I'm traveling with my wife, a little extra space never hurts. Overall, the cabin leaves a decent impression and also the crew is friendly, professional and helpful. Despite its youth and fresh look, this plane is a proper workhorse, barely getting a day off. What many don't know, however, is that IndiGo doesn't actually own its planes. And here's where their savvy business model comes in. They snag their aircraft from Airbus at a deep discount, sell it for the tidy premium and then lease it back. This trick keeps cash flowing, but more importantly, it lets IndiGo adjust their fleet to demand as needed. And well, success proved them right. IndiGo now dominates the Indian skies, holding a market share larger than the next 5 competitors combined. IndiGo pretty much holds a monopoly in India, and that's huge, considering the sheer size and potential of this market. The Indian aviation sector is actually the fastest growing in the world, and routes like today's flight from Mumbai to Delhi rank among the busiest globally. Now, IndiGo may be less than 20 years old, yet it's already perfected the game better than anyone else here. But let's find out what that means for you, the passenger. What's it like flying with one of the world's most successful budget airlines? Let's take off and see.
Welcome to
After takeoff, the first thing my fat ass thinks of is getting something to eat. We've got all the facilities for that in the form of a tray table and a conclusive menu. As a budget carrier, meals and drinks aren't included in the fare, but you can pre-order full meals or purchase snacks on board. I've noticed that pre-ordering meals or booking seats with international credit cards can be problematic. Many others have reported similar issues, However, some viewers of my last video on IndiGo have mentioned it should work. So I'm really a Joe Biden in this situation, I just don't know what the heck is going on. Unfortunately, on IndiGo, full meals aren't available for purchase during the flight. But you can get fed with snacks and instant noodles, which is exactly what we did. It cost us 800 Indian rupees in cash or 10 USD for 2 cup noodles and 2 drinks. Relatively expensive compared to typical Indian prices, but a fair deal for in-flight prices though. Our ride up north to Delhi turns out to be a bit of a roller coaster, with the crew frequently pausing meal service due to turbulence. I had originally ordered a chai masala, but given the bumps, they swapped it for juice. Amusingly though, our steaming cup noodles were no problem at all. But let's not blame the crew for that. Rules are rules, and in a German-made plane, everyone was just following orders. As on my previous IndiGo flight, the crew is attentive and the service surprisingly good for a low-cost carrier. India's budget flying experience actually outshines full-service carrier elsewhere, offering generous baggage allowances, low fares and extras you wouldn't expect. And that's probably thanks to the fiercely competitive market here. You see, Indian Airlines can't just hike prices or scarf extras like in some other regions without losing passengers. But with IndiGo's near monopoly, I hope that doesn't change in the future. Because to be honest, if they have a big enough market share and basically crush their competitors to death, they can basically do whatever the heck they want, but let's not give them any stupid ideas. As we approach Delhi, the weather takes a turn with thicker clouds and rougher skies.
Delayed flights. Please refer to the passenger charter on the Air Seva website for information on your rides. Thank you.
My footage doesn't quite capture it, but this flight is getting a bit shaky as we dive into the smoggy air of India's capital. The seatbelt signs are on constantly, and I'm relieved I skipped anything too heavy on the stomach, because now would be the perfect time to return it where it came from. While it might not be the smoothest flight, there's really nothing to worry about on IndiGo, as they're known for their solid safety record. I mean, no airline is ever 100% free of risks, but IndiGo, as India's largest airline, is considered safe, I'd say. With well-trained pilots, a young fleet and generally solid maintenance, they certainly hold their own among competitors. So, how does flying with IndiGo stack up? Is it really worth it? Stick around, I'll give you my full review once we touch down. But first, let's enjoy this breathtaking landing. Welcome to Delhi Indira Gandhi International, India's largest and most advanced airport. With over 70 million passengers and nearly 500,000 aircraft movements annually, Delhi Airport is even bigger than Mumbai's and ranks as the 10th busiest in the world. IndiGo constitutes a big part of this traffic, so it must be doing something right. Right? In my opinion, absolutely. IndiGo is a low-cost carrier, so luxury isn't what draws people to it. But compared to other budget airlines, IndiGo really delivers. The fares are low, the service is friendly, and the airline has a strong safety record. And while delays happen, they're nowhere as frequent as with carriers like Air India or SpiceJet. With a point-to-point service model, streamlined operations, and the ability to adapt to demand, IndiGo has carved out a huge slice of India's rapidly growing aviation cake. It's no surprise they're dominating, and I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to expand. Of course, this growth comes at the cost of competitors like SpiceJet. Speaking of which, click right here to watch my rather unpleasant flight with SpiceJet. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week.